Penguin Random House Audio presents This Year It Will Be Different and Other Stories by Maeve Binchy. Read by Fionnula Flanagan.
The First Step of Christmas. Jenny and David gave wonderful Christmas parties, always on the Sunday before. They asked the whole family, his and hers. They produced Timmy for just enough time for everyone to think he was adorable, and never for that one moment too long when people would tire of him. They made the party a huge buffet so that nobody was too trapped with anyone else. The house was festooned with decorations, usually real holly and real ivy gathered from the countryside where it was growing wild. There was nothing vulgar about their tree. Clever ribbons and angels and paper flowers, not expensive-looking packages. But everyone knew that somewhere, discreetly, were the gift-wrapped presents that must have poured in to a couple so loving and considerate as David and Jenny. As the years passed, 5 Christmases to be precise, Jenny stood sometimes in her immaculate kitchen listening to the murmurs of appreciation. David's first wife had never done anything like this. Oh, no one had been invited across the door in Diana's day. Diana had been far too hoity-toity to bother with family. That was Jenny's reward. That was the glory for the weeks, no, months of preparation and planning and shopping and making it all seem so effortless. David had grumbled slightly when Jenny said they should have a second freezer, but then he wasn't there when she made the mountains of mince pies and the stacks of savories. David didn't know how Jenny worked in that kitchen on the nights he had meetings or had to stay out of town. He would never know. She would be as different from the beautiful, selfish Diana as it was possible to be. And her child, Timmy, would be an angel, not a devil as Diana's child had turned out, not a dangerous, destructive girl like Alison. Alison had been 9 when Jenny met her first, very beautiful, with untamed curly hair almost covering her face. She had made no pretense at politeness. "How much did that cost?" she had asked Jenny about the new dress. "Why do you want to know?" Jenny was spirited from the very start. "I was asked to find out," Alison shrugged, as if it didn't matter very much. "By your mother?" Jenny could have bitten out her tongue the moment she said it. Heavens, no, Mother wouldn't be remotely interested. The way she said it, Jenny knew she was speaking the truth. The lovely, lazy Diana would not indeed have cared. Who, then? "The girls at school. One of my friends said you must be after Father for his money." It hadn't really got any better. When she was 10, Alison had come to stay for a weekend and had tried on all Jenny's clothes and used all her makeup. It wouldn't have mattered so much if every single lipstick had not been twisted out of shape and every garment marked with makeup. She was only dressing up. All little girls like doing that, David said, his eyes pleading. Jenny decided not to have their first row on the losing battlefield of the stepchild. She managed to smile and planned a lengthy session at the dry cleaners. When Alison was 11, Timmy was born. "Did you forget to take your pills?" she asked Jenny when her father was out of the room. "We wanted him, Alison, just as your mother and father wanted you." "Oh, yeah?" Alison had said, and Jenny's heart was leaden. It was true that she had wanted the child much more than David had. How could this monstrous stepdaughter have found her vulnerability? When Alison was 12, she was expelled from school. The counselor said that it was all to do with feeling her father had rejected her. She must be allowed to spend more time as part of his life. David was out at work all day, and so was Jenny. They treasured the time they took together with Timmy, time when the quiet Swiss au pair went to her room and left them to be a family. Now they had Alison on lone visits, sulking, yawning, contributing nothing, criticizing everything. When she was 13, she didn't want to come near them, which was bliss, except that it made David feel rejected. Jenny worked in a publishing house. She told colleagues ruefully that she could see why there were so many books on step-parenting. She had read them all, and she could have written half a dozen more, but none of them had ever had to face anything like Alison. When Alison was 14, her mother died, suddenly and unexpectedly, after a routine operation. David had gone to Alison's boarding school. "I expect you'll have to have me now," she had said to her father. David said it had nearly broken his heart to think that his only daughter considered herself a package to be passed from one place to another. Jenny forced herself to think about Diana, dead before she was 40, dead without ever having lived properly. She put the thought of Alison to the furthest part of her brain. She knew it would spoil everything. There were going to be no happy endings in this story. No one would walk hand in hand into the sunset, swearing undying friendship. She would do it. She would do it for David, and oddly for the dead Diana, whom she had feared and mistrusted in life. If Jenny were to die young, she would like some other woman to look after Timmy, to try to make a life for him. She slaved as never before over their Christmas party. Sometimes she got up ludicrously early in the morning. David would come down to breakfast and find a smell of cooking in the kitchen, even though all the mess had been cleared away. "You are a funny little thing," he said to her, giving her a squeeze. Jenny was not funny, nor was she a little thing. She would look at herself thoughtfully. She was tall, not as willowy as Diana, but tall. She was deadly serious about her family and her work. Why was it the action of a funny little thing to get the party right? He used to tell her how much he loved it, that he had always been one for ceremony and for celebration, but Diana had never wanted to bother. But Jenny would pick no fights, manufacture no rows, not at the festive season. Alison arrived a day earlier than she was expected. Jenny came back from work and found her halfway through eating a tray of intensely complicated hors d'oeuvres. Each one had taken 3 minutes to assemble. They would take 1 second to eat. And Jenny had made 60 of them, shaping the curls of phyllo pastry with endless patience and leaving them to cool before freezing them. It represented 3 hours of her life. She looked at Alison with pure hatred. Alison looked up from behind the curtain of hair. "These are bad. I didn't know you were a homemaker as well as a career woman." Jenny's face was white with rage. Even Alison noticed. These weren't for supper or anything, were they?" she said with mock contrition. Jenny took the deep breath that all the books on step parenting seemed to recommend. It was so deep it reached her toes. "Welcome home, Alison," she said. "No, these weren't for supper, not at all. They were just something for the party." "Party?" "Yes, on Sunday. We have the family. It's a tradition." "Oh, I think things have to be more than just 3 or 4 years to be a tradition," Alison said. "This is our 6th Christmas together, so I suppose that feels like a tradition." Jenny's shoes were hurting. She wanted to take one of them off and beat her stepdaughter senseless with its high, sharp heel. But she felt it would have been both unseasonal and counterproductive. There was no way Jenny was going to enjoy this Christmas, but what she must try to do was to contain it. She tried to remember that phrase people used. What was it? Damage limitation? She had never known quite what it meant. Had it something to do with saving what you could? She often found at work that if you thought of something quite irrelevant and allowed your mind to click through the motions, then it prevented you from flying off the handle. She saw Alison looking at her with interest. "Yeah, I suppose 6 years is a tradition," Alison agreed, as if she were struggling to be fair. A glow of sympathy toward the girl began to shine through the mists of dislike and resentment, but Jenny was too experienced to mistake it for the swell of violins surging at the end of the movie. "About the party," Jenny said. "Are there any of your mother's relations that we might ask?" Alison looked at her in disbelief. "Ask here? Why, yes, it's your home now. They are your relations, too. If we want to make it a family Christmas, we would be very happy to have them." "What for?" For the same reason that anyone asks anyone under their roof at Christmas.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?